The Red Sox have suffered their fair share of injuries already in the 2012 season, and that's a bit of a problem for a team that already had a crowded 40-man roster. Unlike the 25-man roster, the 40-man roster can include players that are in the minors, or players who are on the regular 15-day disabled list. Because the Red Sox have had so many injuries, their 40-man roster is actually 47 players long right now. This is due to the number of players who are on the 40-day DL. John Lackey and Chris Carpenter were on before the regular season even began, as was Bobby Jenks. Ryan Kalish was put on after he had to undergo multiple surgeries in the past few months. But Carl Crawford, partially because it wasn't just his wrist that was problematic, but also his elbow that required a PRP injection, and Jacoby Ellsbury, who had Reed Brignac fall on his shoulder and dislocate it after 7 games this year, have joined that group on the 60-day DL. The problem is those players will eventually have to come off. Lackey and Carpenter and Jenks aren't a problem because they're not even a factor until 2013, or in the case of Jenks, he's probably going to be a free agent before he ever pitches for anybody again. As for Crawford, Ellsbury, and Kalish, though, people will need to be moved off of the team. This is where you start to get the idea that someone like Lars Anderson, who the Red Sox have been waiting for to start to just hit more down in Pawtucket the last few years. He has almost 1,200 plate appearances at the level. He's probably going to end up being traded somewhere. They tried to deal him last year to Oakland and it didn't work, but now he's holding a 40-man spot that's just precious to the team at this point. Other prospects who maybe haven't done what they were supposed to, like Oscar Tejeda, he might end up somewhere else if there's any interest in him, as there was for Yamako Navarro last year. Then there's someone who's on the big league roster, like Matt Albers, who's part of a crowded bullpen. He's not a terrible reliever by any means, but that's why the Red Sox could move him somewhere else and possibly get a prospect or a player to be named later in return for his services. Things don't end there. Marlon Byrd could be designated for assignment once one of the outfielders comes back, as he's somewhat superfluous without that, as is Jason Repko, who really only made the 40-man roster to begin with because Jacoby Ellsbury was gone and they needed someone who could play center. The Red Sox lineup, as it is right now, is not what it's going to look like within another month, most likely. And that's not just because people will be returning, but because some people are going to have to go to make room.